Good morning, Kim.
It is early. Good night. I don't know. My voice might not be reliable this early. I'm gonna be clearing my throat a lot.
I think you'll find your voice. You always do. Well, today we have a super special guest, and she says she's just a mom, grandmother, sister, friend, but those are all beautiful, beautiful, very important roles in the world, probably the most important roles. So we have Allison with us today.
Yeah, and Allison's going to talk to us about her experience with psilocybin and really just how it is a catalyst for change and transformation. And what it has done for her in her own life.
Yeah. So often we've talked to coaches and teachers and retreat facilitators, but today we're going to get to talk to
a practitioner.
And a participant, and maybe she would identify as a psychonaut at this point. But welcome, Allison.
Thank you. It's so awesome to be on. I'm actually very honored that you even asked me to be on your podcast.
Oh, yeah. We are happy to have you. And we know that your story is going to just touch people in a really special way.
Yeah. I hope so. I was very nervous putting it out there so publicly about what certain people might think about me. I know in my heart of hearts that what I'm saying is the truth, like the real truth. And I have so much to say, and I may come across sounding like an idiot because I have so many in my head. I have so many things. It's that one experience propelled me like on this crazy year-long, which will continue for the rest of my life, journey into healing myself. Like really healing myself.
Yeah.
I love that you identify it as a lifelong journey because, I believe, and I think I'm not alone, it's whether your path is psilocybin, psychedelics, whether your path is meditation, whether it's a particular religious practice, if it's purely emotional, scientific, I think that we all can agree that the path to unfolding ourselves and really understanding ourselves and releasing the trauma from this generation and past generations is a lifelong journey.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. The further along I get in my healing journey, it's insane because I realize more and more like, wow, I was so sick, like spiritually, emotionally, physically. Yeah. And I'm working on all those things. And I've made tremendous strides this year that just honestly, I just don't think would have been possible for me personally without the psilocybin. Like it did something, just reset my brain, made me see new ways of thinking.
And I can bear witness to that as, being part of that journey with you. And I would use it, the metaphor of a flower opening, kind of this going from this tight, constricted bud, like, not consciously, but fear of opening. And then just kind of petal by petal, slowly just opening and turning towards the sun. Like that's the metaphor that I would use Yes.
It's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. And honestly, just listening to you, when I think, I get very emotional. I may start crying during this podcast, like now, because I had no idea how dead I was, like just not feeling anything. I was so numb, dead. That just controlled my life. And after that very first experience, which I did not, I went in, I really I was very scared going into it, which I will get into in a moment. But that very first experience, what it did is for one thing, I realized how connected I was to the world, not just people, everything in the world. I finally realized I'm part of nature. I'm not apart from it. I'm a part of it. and I like feel it. You feel so many things that you know, and you tell yourself logically, but until you feel it in your body.
Mhm.
So I felt in my body how loved I was, how much my love was needed, how connected I was, just all the things. And what happened is I emerged from that experience and I suddenly had the will to fight for myself again
Mm.
and take care of myself the way I need to be taken care of, and to voice those needs to my husband, to, you know, anybody in my life. And yes, I have lost a couple of friendships over, you know, but I have to be honest. Like, I just have to be honest and straightforward about what's going on with me. I just want to be clean, you know, with everyone.
So talk a little bit more about lost relationships. What does that look like?
So I say lost, maybe not completely lost. They probably weren't the best relationships to begin with. Just, you know, a couple of friends that didn't quite agree with, you know, the methods I took in my healing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the only thing I can say to that is, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
We talk about the gift of desperation sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, the
I,
desperation allows you to move into a space that's calling you, but you're just too afraid.
Yeah.
Right.
yes, I have spent so many years being just upset and like the victim. I was very much the victim. Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen to me? Why, blah, 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 blah. And I suddenly realized I'm not the victim. I am 100% in control of my life.
Mm.
And I can make the changes. And it's just so amazing to me how that's all I had been thinking about for years and years, was getting out of the rut, the horrible, you know, pain situation, everything that I was in, which, by the way, I still have, but it's slowly loosening its grip on me.
Mm.
And that is 100%. It is slowly loosening its grip. So that's why I originally went to do the psilocybin, because I was just having so much pain for years and years and I couldn't get rid of it. I've had 2 major back surgeries. I have a lot of spinal and hip issues. But the healing really is inside you. I knew that. I had heard over and over again how amazing the human body is, and we can heal ourselves. So that was always in the back of, somebody mentioned to me about the psilocybin. I was scared to death of it because when I had an older brother, he was 10 years older than me, that was very much into LSD back in the 60s and then got into heroin. And I really have PTSD because I was little. He was 10 years older than me, of him in the house, you know, really out of control, you know, doing all these different drugs. And I was also a product of the just say, well, I was old to say no, but, you know, my mom and just society, drugs, bad, bad, bad. So I really did not take this lightly at all. I researched it. Luckily for me, when I was thinking about this, the movie Fantastic Fungi came out,
Mm-hmm.
which was fabulous. I read Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your
Yeah.
Mind. And obviously I spoke with my husband and my daughters about it too, because I didn't want to do anything that if they were just so against it. And obviously I jumped in and did it. I was scared to death, but it was the best thing I've ever done for myself.
So talk about what it was like before, kind of what happened and what it's like now.
Okay. So, well, I actually had fallen out of a chair like 20, 30 years ago and injured my tailbone. And it's like everything kind of just started going downhill even worse at that moment. Like I was probably having some spine issues at the time, you know, not feeling myself, ignoring myself. My children were young, you know, it's just like everybody but mom, whatever. And I just kind of got into that pattern and I started slowly over the years just eroding, well, it just eroded everything any connection I had to myself. Like I had no connection to myself whatsoever. And I did not even know that. Like I didn't even understand it. I had my first back surgery back in 2000 and started feeling better, but then things started going bad again. I had a couple of collapsed discs in my back is actually what happened. Anyway, things were just getting worse and worse. I had another surgery in 2019, but going back to that, my mom passed away in 2018, and I literally just lost everything. Went terrible. Like I lost it. It was a very bad time for me. I got on antidepressants, which was terrible decision. Like doctors should not put people on antidepressants when someone's died or something. I kind of feel like that because all it did even further.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the antidepressants for almost 2 years. I got off of them a year before I had my first psilocybin experience. And that was a horrible year. I was just totally lost, desperate, knowing I have got to do something. I don't know what to do. Like everything I try, like every time I would start getting on some sort of workout routine or something, I'd start having problems. I have a lot of muscular issues because of the back surgeries. Anyway,
And this was also in 2020 when you
yes.
went. So, I mean, there was also all kinds of things happening in the world at that
Yes, the
time that were.
COVID, like it was just this perfect storm. And I knew I had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking. And that's when a body worker that I was going to mentioned psilocybin to me. And yeah, and I'm forever grateful. Forever
Yeah.
grateful.
So tell us about your first ceremony.
Okay, so I was scared to death, obviously, but I took it very seriously. I did all the things like, you're supposed to eat clean, abstain from alcohol. And hey, I loved my wine too. So that was kind of hard for me to abstain from wine for just
For 2 weeks.
a week or two leading up to the
Yeah.
ceremony. But I did it and had the ceremony, and it had some scary parts, but overall it massive, like, wow, like there is so much to live for. I was so depressed and disconnected. Like this is what real living and life and joy with people I love in relationships. And it comes from me. You realize so quickly, immediately, it comes from you, and you just want to share.
Mm.
So I came out of that ceremony, and immediately I had a will to fight for myself, to really fight for myself. And it's just really funny because one by one, everything just kind of started falling away. Like first I stopped taking a medication for nerve pain. Then I dropped a muscle relaxer that I was taking single night. So that was all. I'd been on these medications for over 10 years. I'd been on muscle relaxers for 20 years. I'd been on this nerve medication for about 10 years. Then, and let me say, this has all not been like this rocket ship ride straight up. It's not linear. It's been up and down, up and down, up and down, but it's more up than down,
So when you
which is
say,
amazing.
I have a question just to go back a second. When you say I began to fight for myself, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like?
Well, it looks, first of all, getting some discipline back in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I had one thing going for me that I always walk almost every day. I loved getting outside in nature and walking. Okay. But it was more of a thing that was forced. I still walk every day, but I knew I needed so many other steps in my life for health. And so right off the bat, I started journaling,
Mm-hmm.
which the journaling is kind of, and sometimes I'll do it and not. But I started working out with a trainer to get physically strong. I researched and looked for just the person. I have an amazing trainer. So that started. I stopped drinking. Like I just stopped drinking. I just one day decided, I think I'm done. And on paper, I wouldn't have been that woman that you looked at and said, oh, she needs to just dial it back. No, not at all. But it was not good for me. Plus, I have a lot of alcoholism in my family too. So that scared me. So drinking just kind of fell away. I say it fell away. You still have to actively say, I don't want to drink or whatever, but that's gone. Started doing some yoga. I started meditating regularly. It's like all these things that you have to do. Happiness is a choice. I started listening to everything I could get my hands on and reading about yoga, meditation, like all these things. And I was so immersed in it. I just cannot get enough of it.
So when you say fight for yourself, it's really prioritizing yourself.
Yes, prioritizing myself.
And, because so often when people say fight for themselves, it means fight against something. And what I hear you say is really just supporting yourself and making a commitment to it, right?
Yes, I am very committed to self-care for myself now. I've never taken care of myself before, ever.
Which is not uncommon for women.
Yeah,
Yes.
Allison, I just, a couple of things that you're bringing up here that I think are so important is this idea of this maybe unconscious erosion of connection with yourself. And so you're just doing the things, you're just surviving in the world and adapting to the world as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a, PTA participant, whatever it is, all of these things, trying to be a good person. What the world tells you is a good woman, a good mother, a good, all of these things. And then not realizing how it's just eroding. And then that opportunity with psilocybin. And as you so beautifully put, you've done so many other things besides that. But what that gave you was a few hours where you felt that connection and the contrast of how you were normally going through your life. For me, it's almost feels like a zombie state.
Yes.
Right. But it's like the frog that you put in the water and the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And the frog doesn't know that it's boiling until it's too late. Right. So it's like this slow erosion that starts. And, I know more about your bigger story, right? We've talked a lot about the physical pain, but also the life events that happened for you as a very young child, that you were just adapting to a situation and disconnecting from yourself out of survival.
Yes.
And, it's like, and I can relate to this too. I became much more willing to meditate after I had some psilocybin experiences, because it was like, I was like, okay, that's what I'm going for. That connection. Okay. I'm motivated now. Now I'll do it, because I know it's like you're climbing to the top of a mountain, and this psilocybin and other things can take you all the way there. You get to feel it. Now you have to come down to the bottom of the mountain and then do the work.
But what's up there.
Right.
Yes.
But just having the what you described, that you felt it. It was no longer just an idea of I'm connected with all of nature. Well, yeah. Okay. Most people would agree with that. But when you feel it and you feel the power of that and how that makes you realize you are worth taking care of.
Yes.
Yeah. And that you're a part of nature. I loved that too. Like, you are a part of it all, and it wants your full expression, right? It wants your total opened flower.
My mind is just blown all the time, like by the things that I think about, like, excuse me, the mushrooms, for example. So, we are in such a symbiotic relationship with nature. And I really feel like I really understand this now. And I understand like the intelligence, and this is going to sound crazy to some people, but when you know, the intelligence of the mushrooms. So I kind of feel like, who's the smarter? We have such a symbiotic relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
They are helping us, but we are in turn helping them. We are caring so much about this planet and the world we live in and everything on it. You can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't help it. And it's just the most beautiful, analogy of a giving, what a relationship should be.
Yeah, it's a restoration of
It
what was already there, right?
Mm-hmm.
This relationship was there, the symbiosis was there, the connection was there, but as a conscious being, it wasn't in your consciousness. And
Mm-mm.
and it's different when you actually have it as part of your conscious operating system. I am part of this, whatever this is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, you mentioned Fantastic Fungi, and it is an amazing film. It's just fantastic. And it's not all about psychedelics. It's really
Right.
about fungi and
Yeah.
just how fascinating and how integral it is to connection, and how it forms this underground network that allows the trees and plants to communicate with one another. And it's just such a beautiful analogy for what it does for us in ceremony. It's like it allows us to almost plug in to that network that connects
Yes.
everything and allows communication. And it's that, and that connection is always there, to your point
Yes.
earlier, right? It's
Yes.
just, we can talk about it, and unless you've experienced that sense of connection. And I don't think psilocybin is the only path to that. I don't.
I don't either.
It's a powerful path, but there are others. But once you feel that, you're changed forever.
Yeah. A couple of things, Allison, that I think has been interesting for me to observe, and you brought them up, is when I had my first experience and then learned about psilocybin, I was like, well, as soon as everybody knows about this, they're going to want to do it. Like, it just was like, this is like, you can, have a chance to be off of an antidepressant, deal with your pain, and actually feel connected. But there is still two things. And it seems, men and women are different. And I have noticed this, that men don't seem to be as afraid of psilocybin as women. That's just my observation. Now that could change. It seemed like men were, and maybe it's because, I don't know why. I know we could talk about why, but that maybe it's like women wanting to be good, wanting to be in control, wanting to, all of that. And, so the two things, the fear of the experience itself, like that being out of control, and then also the fear of quote unquote doing drugs,
and being judged and being
right.
bad.
And being
Yes.
judged, because there is that, oh, you're doing psychedelics. Like there's still a stigma around that for sure. And of course it's illegal. So there's that.
In most places.
Right. Not in every place. And it's a matter of time before it's not illegal. But, so there is the stigma, the fear, where you go to get your Prozac. There's no stigma. There's no fear about that. Most of the people you go to, group of people, most of the women, oh yeah, I take Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac. Yeah, whatever. Lexapro, big deal. So there's not a stigma around those, which I think those are actually truly drugs.
Yes.
They're not medicine. They're drugs, and I've taken them. So, I mean, this is not me saying no one, it is what it is. Where something like psilocybin can actually help you to heal, which in my definition is a medicine. A medicine is something that you partner with, that you're in a relationship with, that actually helps you to become better, doesn't just manage the symptoms of being chronically disconnected from yourself.
And I think it's also pretty interesting. I've heard other people have this experience too. It's like, you take in the medicine and you come out and, suddenly you're not as interested in drinking alcohol anymore.
It
And
happens a
sometimes you're
lot.
not as interested in, eating junk, putting junk into your body. And it's not like I'm going to force myself to do it. It's like, I'm just not quite as interested
Yes,
anymore.
it's just a gentle falling away.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
And
like
let
an
me say something.
exfoliation.
That's right. And it's still kind of all happening. But we don't have a problem with eating other kinds of mushrooms. Why do we? And they're medicinal in other ways too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all entheogens. They all offer you a gift. All
Yes.
mushrooms, that I've heard recently, like they're not plants and they're not humans, but they're somewhere in there.
Well, we're actually, if you look at the genealogy in the tree, we are more closely related to mushrooms than we are to plants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're like they're our sibling in a way, but they came thousands and thousands of years before us, and I think really prepared the earth for us. If it wasn't for mushrooms, there would be no soil.
Right.
There would be no plant. I mean, there would be no us. Like
Nothing.
they are, in a way, our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they're so smart, so much smarter than us.
They are. And I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but they really are. Like, I talked to my husband about this so much, who he has never had an experience.
Yeah,
and I really would like him to. But he,
You know what I love is everybody who has had an experience is like, oh my God, I've got to get this person to do it. And it's like
a lot of times it's the husband and wife,
and it or children or whatever. And as somebody who helps support people in that work, it's like you can't force somebody to, it wouldn't work. It'd be the same as forcing someone to go and talk to a therapist. Like, that's never gonna work. A person has to come to this of their own volition. It's the only way.
They do.
And it takes a lot of courage, as you said, and it takes a willingness to feel uncomfortable for a sustained period of time, and and a true deep desire to change things within themselves. And some people not either don't think they want any change, or they're not ready. They're just not ready.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that too. I do understand that. I really do. I'm, however, one of those people that I love exploring what's inside my mind. Like, I really love it now. I'm probably a little bit too much in sometimes, but I'm in my head in a better way now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Than I was before. Now when I'm in my head, when I was in my head, it was all negative talk. And now it's more like problem solving, pondering, really contemplating things.
Yeah. Like what's in there, what's going on. Yeah. So if someone saw you at, Whole Foods, they would say, look at that just well put together woman who, is a mother and a grandmother and a wife of how many years?
A long time, 40 something.
Yeah.
We were high school sweethearts.
High school sweethearts. So, it's like everyday people you don't have to be, a tie-dye wearing hippie, although I love tie-dye.
Me too.
Tie-dye wearing hippie or, any of those things. Like it's accessible, it's there, and the support is there. There's more and more support coming around it. And just the way that you have, respectfully partnered with this medicine substance to heal very deep, really ancestral, transgenerational. And as a mother, you have 3 daughters, right? Think of the impact of on them. And then your granddaughters, you have are there any boys in there?
There are 2 boys and there's another boy on the way. I'm about to have a 7th grandchild.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
But just how you're showing up differently for them. Like, we will never know the full impact of that, as opposed to, being, kind of this disconnected, eroded, person. Like just your presence in the room, even if you're, no one in your family ever takes it, decides to go down this path, but just the way you can show up differently and be more present, be more you.
Yes.
You become the medicine.
Yes.
You do. And I would, that being said, I would be totally supportive of one in my family that felt, that would like to go on this journey to, see what it's like, that they needed that healing. Because I haven't done therapy. I probably should, but it's almost like it's like years of, and I've heard this said before, years of therapy just compressed, because it brings up so many things that you have stuffed down, things from childhood, that you just need to address. And also, let me just say this too, even though it brings up some very unpleasant things from my childhood, it also made me feel much forgiving and loving towards my parents, who were just victims of their own raising and circumstances. We're all just people struggling to get by in this crazy world.
Yeah.
So,
and it's compressed and it continues. In other words, my experience is that a door was opened that had been locked shut in me. And after the experience, the door remained open. So more and more awareness gets to come to me. I mean, I just had this really powerful experience over the weekend of just this intense knowing or experience of releasing some of the pain. And it's because that door is now open. And I wouldn't even get near that locked door before.
I understand what you're saying totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even think I knew the door was there.
Yeah. Laura's door was like
I was
covered
like,
over.
I don't have a door.
There's no door.
No door.
No door here.
Well, it's crazy, all the shame and fear and guilt we walk around with for things that are not even our doing or our faults, or things that we haven't even done.
Or things that were done a long, long time ago that we just can't release and let go of and forgive ourselves for. It's yeah. And wouldn't it be, I mean, and as we all know, as I am able to see my shadows, accept them and forgive myself and release that shame and guilt, I just naturally become a person who's able to do that for others.
Yes. Yeah. You can't have.
And what does the world need today more than just compassion and acceptance? And
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
We all need that.
Yes.
The world needs that so bad.
More, please.
Yes, please. More.
For sure.
Well, Allison, are you about ready for the lightning round?
Sure. I think. Okay.
All right. What rules have you chosen to rebel against on your journey to health?
Well, obviously, doing what I feel is right. And I rebel more and more every day, because now that's my mantra. If it feels like it's correct for me, I will proceed. If it doesn't,
yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
That's a great boundary.
All right, Allison, what does it mean for you to be holy?
Okay, for me to be holy, it means, and I never would have said this before, but to be holy is to just constantly be on that path of, and to be the best version of yourself you can be, emotionally, spiritually, physically, so that you can be your best self in the world for everyone. Yeah, and to take very good care of myself. I mean, if you're a Christian, these are all things in the Bible. Maybe not worded exactly that way, but it's very simple. Very simple.
And what do you want to say to a listener right now to help them rise up?
Ooh, don't be afraid. Like, fight through your fear. If that fear is not accompanied by the bad sick feeling in your stomach, but is
Mhm.
accompanied, I call it the good sick feeling, the excited, then you should explore that and look into it, because I kind of feel like that kind of inner excitement and curiosity, that's body pushing you forward. It's God pushing you forward. It's whatever. It's the universe pushing forward towards your healing,
Mm,
towards
Yeah.
everything you need in your life.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Allison, for sharing your story, your vulnerability, and just what, your journey with us today and with our listeners.
If anybody would want to get in touch with you, Allison, would you be open to that? And how could
Yes.
they do that?
I mean, I am on an Instagram, Allison J. Bushman,
Okay.
and I don't do Facebook. So that's about the only way, other than like an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your email will be in our show notes.
Okay.
So if a listener wants to look at the show notes and grab your email, they can do that.
Okay. That's good. I am totally fine with that. I really, like I said, as you know, you want the world to be a better place, but you really feel it. And you just, I just want everybody to be able to have the same opportunity at
Yeah.
some point going forward, if they choose this for their healing journey, that they are able to
Yeah.
do all the work too.
Yes, absolutely. With the right support and the right,
Yes.
preparation and integration. And you are such a good model of what that looks like and what the outcome can be when you do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Allison.
Well, thank you.